Hi guys, Kenta here. So this video today, we're going to be talking about Steve Shives, unfortunately. I used to really enjoy Steve Shives' content. I watched his entire series where he was debunking Christian books for, God, I want to say that was a good 8-hour session, an hour-long session per video. I want to say it was longer than 8 hours. But anyways, it was a great series of him just using logic and reasoning and just debating these Christian books. And I've even recommended the videos to several people. But unfortunately, I feel like if I do that nowadays, it's going to be problematic because they're going to see his new atheism plus feminism movement, and that's really unfortunate because like I used to look up to Shives. Shives was one of those guys that would just he was just easily agreeable. It was so hard being an atheist not to agree with some of his standpoints. But since when he's gone to this new atheism plus feminism movement, he, as I'd like to quote from TJ with The Amazing Atheist, is that his channel is dying the death of 1,000 cuts. And instead of saying, you know what, it's my content, I probably need to shift gears and change the way that I make my content, maybe move out from this, social justice warrior standpoint and just switch back to the atheism, just talking about atheism and how we can, better the movement or better the group or whatever the fuck you want to call an atheist anymore. It's so hard to find the proper term to call us. But anyways, and it's quite sad. It was just been quite sad. This latest video, 5 toxic things about YouTube atheism. Now, he should just change it to 5 toxic things about TJ Kirk, the Amazing Atheist, because all 5 things are easily portrayed on TJ, on how Shives thinks of him. So we're gonna jump right into it, unfortunately. So get on your fucking, tinfoil hats, and let's get on with Shives videos.
Yes, I'm a YouTube atheist, but try not to hold that against me, okay? Here are 5 toxic things about YouTube atheism.
Now, Shives, no one is disagreeing with your atheism. No one hates you because you're an atheist. Everyone hates you because you sit there and you shut out other people's viewpoints that don't puppet your own. You literally, it took you not even 6 minutes to block me on Twitter when I said that you should just talk to TJ about your whole situation and be mature about it. And you and your block bots or whoever the fuck did it, blocked me in less than 6 minutes. I then sent a reply and said it just shows how scared you are of an opposite viewpoint of your own. And that took you well longer than, I want to say it took you an entire afternoon to block me on that one. I think it's because again, I literally think it was a bot that did it, because I was blocked in 6 minutes compared to 8 hours on an alternate Twitter account that doesn't follow anyone at all. So, Shives, the best advice I can give you, instead of saying, well, people hate me just because I'm an atheist, say, well, people hate me because I hate conflicting viewpoints and I don't want to debate them. I don't want to try and prove them wrong with statistics and with facts. Instead, I'm just going to live in my safe bubble and prevent anyone from ever getting into it or ever conflicting with me. Everyone who comes into my safe space is going to be exactly like me. They're going to parrot everything I say. And it's just really sad because you close your mind from other viewpoints, and you close your mind from other points of view and from other statistics, and it's just sad to see you like this, dude. It's really sad because, like I said earlier, I used to look up to you, but now you're just sorry, but you're just fucking pathetic, dude.
Number 1, it has a sexism problem. Many of the most popular atheists on YouTube are brazen anti-feminists who insult and belittle women and men, but mostly women, who speak out against gender inequality. They also proudly deny the existences of things like the wage gap, rape culture, gender imbalances in political and cultural representation, and other problems that are widely accepted and seriously discussed outside of the misogynist circle jerk that is the atheist community on YouTube. But lest you think that sexism is the only form of bigotry running rampant in atheist spaces on YouTube, let me assure you.
Okay, so unlike before where I debunked a section at a time with Shives' video, I'm going to debunk it with each part of the list, so there's no clipping issues or anything like that. So his first point falls flat with feminist agenda by saying that YouTube atheists are sexist against women. If that were the case, explain how women like Jacqueline Glenn can have such massive channels that are even larger than yours, Shives, be considered sexist. How is it considered misogynistic when more people listen to skeptics like Shoe on Head, Sugar Tits, and Sierra McCord, with one of them even admitting that they were on the same side as you with feminism? Gender inequality? Well, look at what I said earlier. It looks pretty even to everyone else, with these 4 women having double the size of a channel you do, so doesn't that put you, as a man, at an unequal state, based upon your supposed statistics? Also, the wage gap has been debunked for quite some time now. It takes the amount a man makes and compares it to what a woman makes, but it doesn't factor in overtime, experience, the amount of vacation time, or even the job position. If you balance out this supposed gap to that of each position, it's pretty clear that it's pretty damn even. It's pretty even. Rape culture? What will it take to prove to you that we don't live in a rape culture here in the West? If that were the case, why is it that the very hint of rape was occurred, it's guilt until proven innocent with a lot of people, and I'm not talking just feminists, I'm talking everyone. The moment rape is so much as hinted, you assume guilty until proven innocent. We don't live in a rape culture, sorry Shives, but the facts disagree with your view. In fact, we live in one of the most safest moments in history when it comes to rape. Rape is down from what it was back in the day, even before third wave feminism started. Imbalances in politics? Well, don't we have 4 Supreme Court judges and a woman who's going to be the Democratic nominee? Where is the sexism? Also, I'd like to point out that by stating, all these people I know, that not even half of them are even atheists, but even so, with the standpoint, it still puts Shives in a very difficult position to say that women aren't exactly getting the best benefits in the world, or the best, anything on YouTube for that matter.
Number 2, it also has a racism problem. And it's the best kind of racism too, the willfully oblivious kind. One of the most subscribed to atheists on YouTube recently made videos espousing his views that, for example, black Americans who speak out against racial injustice are part of a victim cult, or the displacement of black folks by gentrification isn't a problem because it results in nicer neighborhoods with fewer thugs hanging around, or, my personal favorite, the true outrage isn't racism, but people calling people like him racists. Because why would anyone think that the white guy who makes a virtue out of publicly not giving a shit about black people was a racist? It's ridiculous. Hang on, I'm not done.
So, you can easily see here why I say you should just change the title of the video to 5 things I think are toxic about TJ Kirk. He literally quotes him, and it's not hard to tell that he's doing this to sort of say, well, fuck your views on Black Lives Matter, you're a racist. Also, gentrification isn't a bad thing at all. Most of these old, rugged buildings do not meet code at all, and it wouldn't surprise me if some are used in crime, like, say, for example, the production of meth. This also doesn't just apply to black neighborhoods. Gentrification hits even small towns like my own, where after like what, 4 floods that we've had in the past 6 to 8 years now, have been the cause of several buildings having structure and foundation issues that needed to be torn down, so the town instead put up a basketball court for kids to play in. How is this a bad thing when the houses are deemed uninhabitable? That they're literally a hazard to human health if they stay standing. No one can live in them, but we should just keep them up anyway because reasons that we're not going to state for whatever reason. Do you want to look at an eyesore building that's rotting, or do you want it to become something new that might even help the area of that community? It might bring people together. In this case, this basketball court is great for kids. It keeps them out of trouble. And makes them better basketball players. Shit. I won't defend TJ, but playing the racist card on him is like saying he's a Nazi. It means you've reached no good argument to have, so you go with the largest scum you can think of. In fact, wasn't this a socialist theory as well?
Number 3, it has a religious bigotry problem too. The ugliest religious bigotry in the YouTube atheist community is, of course, directed at Muslims, who are commonly stereotyped as potential terrorists and whose religion is viewed as inherently worse and more dangerous than any other. But there's still plenty of judgmental condescension left over for Christians and religious folks in general. Many YouTube atheists will still cite belief in God as evidence of mental illness, thus denigrating religious folks and the mentally ill at the same time. Not that they give a shit. Pushing the religious into the mud and then pointing and laughing at them is one of YouTube atheism's most treasured pastimes. That might be why...
Oh my fucking god, how can you call yourself an atheist and defend Islam at the same time? I don't see this when it comes to Catholics and the KKK, or even neo-Nazis or whatnot. So how is this allowed with ISIS and Islam? And it in fact is worse because they're actually killing people. Do you see Catholics crashing planes into buildings? Do you see Buddhists placing backpacks in marathons filled with explosives? Do you see Methodists beheading and stoning women to death in the East just because they didn't wear a particular piece of clothing? If any of these religious positions were doing this, we'd condone them as well. Why is it that every other religion is okay to call out their radicals, but the moment you do it to Islam, you're being an Islamophobe? Because that's literally what you're stating here. If you hate it, if you rip on Islam, you're an Islamophobe. Either Allah is it okay to debunk and call out, or none of them are. Also, who's calling religious people mental? Is this another direct TJ quote? Because it certainly sounds like something he'd say. And haven't you before said that it's baffling on how people still believe a magical sky deity created everything? Isn't it mental when churches get free tax exemption to build a boat that's nowhere near water and will never be used anyways to begin with? Isn't it also mental that they can build theme parks that are fully tax exempt and take all the profits and never give anything back? Isn't it also mental how they tell people that you and me, just because we're atheists, are sodomites and deserve to die? How is this not mental? How isn't it mental to sit here and listen to them say that we're going to go to hell because we don't believe someone did magic tricks?
Number 4, it's addicted to drama and conflict. Some of the most watched atheists on YouTube today began making videos in response to creationists. Some of them conducted themselves with class, dignity, and intellectual honesty, striving to have civil conversations with often exasperating adversaries. But even back in those less fractious early years, before the community's pervasive racism and sexism surfaced, the most popular personalities were those who gleefully bullied their targets. Small wonder then that once the creationist opponents had been exhausted, the bullies turned and found new enemies within atheist circles. And it turns out that most people who enjoyed watching obnoxious white dudes attack Christians were just as entertained by watching those same obnoxious white dudes attack women, Muslims, and racial justice activists. That the YouTube atheist community is now dominated by professional trolls who manufacture conflict in order to generate content and views would be bad enough if the damage they caused was confined to YouTube. But it's not.
Another TJ rip-on. And I feel so bad for Seth and the Thinking Atheist for having his channel tarnished with your interview. Also, what about the women? Once again, just like a feminist that you are, your double standard shows no limits. Women can rip on others just as much as men do. For fuck's sakes, Shives, your cult literally thrives on drama. And to quote TJ, you don't get to decide whose voices rise above the fray. The people do. Also, we can say the same thing about feminism. Because it's not just on YouTube when they cry and bitch that Milo speaks at their college, or anywhere else for that matter, or anyone else. Fuck, it's fucking hilarious how even Stephen Chowder, a guy who I've completely disagreed with on his union standpoints, but when he actually sits there and talks with Milo, and even recently talking with Sargon of Akkad, shows that you have two different wings here that just are agreeing with each other on not only just the viewpoints of feminism, but on the viewpoints of Islam as well. And it's just, why is it that you're the only one that just can't seem to see the problem with Islam? Why is it that you seem to think that it's because it's dramatic, or it's like when you sit there and publicly attack TJ, isn't that not being dramatic? Isn't that not trying to spark drama? And it's not just TJ you've done it to. You clearly have admitted doing it to others as well. So, Shives, use your head and think. Why is it that you think that these quote-unquote atheist trolls rise above the supposed sane? It's because their points are much better than your points. Live with it. That's YouTube.
Number 5, it reflects poorly on the rest of the atheist movement. Ever wonder why, with a few notable exceptions, YouTube atheists are not invited to address secular conferences or represent atheist organizations to the public? If you're lucky, your first contact with atheism on YouTube came in the form of one of the more responsible voices, like Aaron Ra, Seth Andrews, or Matt Dillahunty. But unfortunately, it's much more likely that before you got to them, you discovered one of the people I'm talking about in this video, one of the proudly offensive, cluelessly bigoted assholes who might as well be caricatures of atheists drawn by alarmist evangelists. We atheists like to pat ourselves on the back for being more reasonable than the religious folks, but I don't think that's true. And judging by the most visible representatives of our movement on YouTube, the most unreasonable belief shared by many of us might be the belief that we're the reasonable ones. The hardest part is picking only 5. Catch you next time.
We don't get to represent ourselves to the public because, one, a lot of media outlets are Bible thumpers and would only invite us to rip on atheists just like they have with Dawkins in the past. And two, it's because they know that we won't get overly dramatic and heated like they want us to, so they can reinforce their stereotypes of atheists. Also, Shives says, Shives, say his name. We all know who you just made this video to rip on TJ. For crying out loud, this is the 6th time in this video that you've tried to demonize him. Also, I love how you say the hardest part is picking only 5, as if you have more footing to rip on atheism and shoot yourself in the foot like you have with this video only again. Shives, you're an atheist. You identify as an atheist and a feminist. Are you trying to say that you're moving away from atheism to feminism? That you're going to literally give up atheism for feminism? You know, the moment I started watching this video, I knew this was a response to TJ's video about him and how he's publicly tried to demonize TJ and his friends and acquaintances, and only lets people who agree with him keep talking. It's literally like the Young Turks and their ways of trying to demonize people they don't agree with, and you know what? Fine. You can say people like TJ are radicals in the movement of atheism, but again, people like Shives don't get to decide whose voices are heard. Here in YouTube, and this is just my personal opinion, even looking at Shives, TJ, Sargon, etc., they're nothing compared to the radicals of feminism, Islam, Black Lives Matter, KKKs, etc. It's sad to see someone who once stood for logic and reason start to spiral down the corkscrew of destruction. I feel bad for Dark Matter, a guy who is probably a lot of the reason why Shives is still standing, what with his promotion of the same video series I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Shives, you need to wake up and reflect on yourself and your views. I really hate to see a well-known atheist plummet down this hard because of the atheism plus feminism movement. You're better than this, Shives. I know you are. You used to stand, again, for logic and reason. Shives, I'm telling you this now. As a once former fan, you need to wake up and snap out of this atheism plus feminism movement and switch back to atheism. Otherwise, your channel is going to die the death of 1,000 cuts. Why don't you prove TJ wrong by not being the radical feminist and public demonizer that you are?